The death of Piso's son in the Talmud. Talmud B. Sanhedrin, that treasure trove of inner circle stories, contains two accounts of the execution of Piso's son by stoning. Both were later censored out by church censors. One calls him Yeshu the Nazarite, and says he was stoned on the eve of Passover. The second section, which is longer, calls him Ben STADA. The inclusion of these tales was dangerous, particularly the former, which mentioned the name and execution of Yeshu. Censors later expunged, removed, deleted them. Even though the second section was more cautious in referring Ben STADA, not Yeshu, it was obviously similar enough to the former section that it was censored out also. When Herford compiled his remarkable work a century ago, he restored both sections in Hebrew, in his pages 405 and 406. The leading edition of the Talmud, the Soncino, still lacks the sections. The prelude to the stoning of Ben STADA, Yeshu, is another Talmudic fable of Yeshu the Nazarene going down to Egypt with his master Joshua ben Perekiah. This was placed during the reign of late Maccabean king Alexander Jannaeus, who had killed many Pharisees and forced the remainder to flee to Alexandria. When the surviving Pharisees were permitted to return, Yeshu lodged with his master at an inn. Because the Hebrew, Aramaic word for lodging place was ushpiza, a disguised ish Piso, the man Piso. This was an effort by the Talmud writers to place Yeshu 100 years prior to the New Testament, so that their descendants could argue that the Yeshu whom their Sanhedrin had executed not only had a name different than Isis, but had lived a century earlier. Thus, he was a different person from the Jesus of the New Testament, of whom they knew nothing, while simultaneously including Hebrew inner circle code so that the initiates among their own descendants would know the story related to Piso and his created hero. Even today, the few scholars who attempt to decipher this Yeshu call him the Jannaean Jesus after the late Maccabean king in whose reign he was inserted. They little perceive that, like Piso's Jesus, this Jewish Jesus too was entirely fictitious. Herford, p.83, Herford, pp 78-79, Herford, pp 50-51. San, 107b, and also Sota, 47a. Note: Stada appears to be sat, and rearranged as d and n, interchanged, and Satan, as we now know it in English, was a shortened form of the same word that we saw above, Satanas, which again was the spelling in Greek. The Talmud refers to Piso as Canaanite, and Cain, the most mysterious name under which the Talmud writers responded to Piso was as the Canaanite, Nani in Hebrew. The Canaanites, the 7 nations listed in the Hebrew Bible, had disappeared hundreds of years before the 2nd century of our era. They vanished through a combination of Israelite wars and absorption among the Israelite people. Yet, in the Talmud, stories of ancient Canaanites were told. As confirmation that to the Talmud, Canaan was Piso, is the tale that Canaan instructed his sons in 5 things: love one another, love robbery, love lewdness, hate your masters, and do not speak the truth. The 5 instructions must have been because Piso saw himself as having 5 sons in total, and because of the deeds. And interestingly, this story was made to appear in the very same volume, Pesukim, as the above story hinted that the Pisos were honorable princes who have deceit in their hand. Pesukim 113b. Note: Canaan could also be Sinan, pronounced and or spelled Kinan, that is, ki, with a long I, and nin. The ki is C, as an acrostic for Calpurnius, and the nin means the same thing that it meant when it was seen as a part of the name, Arius Antonin us, baby, Jesus. Canaan also means of Cain. Writing as Josephus, Piso says that Cain changed the world. So, it appears that he, Josephus Arius Piso, saw himself as a new Cain, for also having changed the world. Josephus Piso says of Cain, and whereas they lived innocently and generously while they knew nothing of such arts, he Cain changed the world into cunning craftiness. Yes, Piso, the new Cain. Stars worshipper. Talmudic reference to Piso. Another term the Talmud created to secretly allude to Piso was Ovid Kokovim. A stars worshipper. Like Minos and Goy, Ovid 2 totaled 19. Ovid was Ain 7 plus Vof plus 6 Vet 2 plus Dalet 4. But additionally, the other word, Kokovim, totaled another 17, Kaf 2 plus Vof 6 plus Kaf 2 plus Vet 2 plus Yud 1 plus Men 4. And that made a total of the two words 36, which was Josephus, in Greek. It was as to the stars worshippers, a group seemingly farthest removed from Christianity, that the Talmud writers expressed most anger at Piso. As to the worshipper of stars, and Jewish shepherds of small cattle, even though one is not bound to get them out of a pit, one must not throw them in. In the New Testament, Piso had mocked the laws of the Sabbath. Therefore, Resh Lakish, who may be a disguised Piso, says that a stars worshipper observing a day of rest deserves death. Piso had plagiarized the Tanakh Torah, prophets and Psalms, in creating the ultimate anti-Jewish religion. Thanks for watching. Please like and subscribe and I will see you again for more videos.